they really want to do together. All right. So praying together is another aspect of intimacy. So far we've established physical nakedness. We've looked at time spent together. We've looked at praying together, emotional vulnerability, the sharing of goals, dreams, and experiences, as well as communication. Now, what else is there? What else comes to our mind when we think of intimacy? And for those of you who may now be joining us, we are looking at the topic Get Naked, Exploring Marital Intimacy. And this webinar is brought to you with the compliments of Better Blends, Relationship Institute, Blending Lives, Transforming Communities. You can find Better Blends on the web at betterblends.webs.com. You can email us at betterblends@gmail.com. And you can also call if you have any concerns, questions, if you want to find out about having personal counseling, personal coaching, couples coaching. They're slightly different. If you want to do our marriage course, Marriage 101, or if you're interested in having us come and do a seminar or workshop, you can call us at 246-239-7514. Email betterblends@gmail.com. So let's get right back into the heart of our discussion. We're currently looking at some of the images, the thoughts, the ideas that come to our mind when we think of the issue of nakedness or intimacy, really. Intimacy, that's the question I asked. What images, what ideas, what words, what thoughts come to mind when you think of intimacy? And so far, I've been putting some out there. We've looked at physical nakedness, time spent together, emotional vulnerability, praying together, sharing of goals, dreams, experiences, and the obvious communication, whether verbal or nonverbal. And there's some more. Affectionate displays. Affectionate displays. If you're intimate with someone, if you're intimate with someone, you're going to want to spend some time showing them how you feel about them. So whether you hug, whether you kiss when you leave each other on mornings, some couples do it at the door, some couples do it in the car. Some might not be so obvious because they might feel a bit self-conscious around other people, but some couples do this. Some couples kiss each other when they greet each other on evenings. Some do it every night before they go to sleep. You hug, you hold hands as you walk out together, whether you're at the supermarket, whether you're in town, whether you're going out for a date. You hold hands, you hug publicly, you dance together. Affectionate displays, especially in public, it says a lot about the kind of relationship that you have and how you feel about that person in your life. So, affectionate displays is definitely one that we think of when we think of intimacy. We also have the issue of thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness. It's very important that we spend time thinking about um, our partner and what we can do to make them feel loved, what we can do to make them feel appreciated, what we can do to make them feel needed. So, being thoughtful, making a cup of tea or a cup of coffee for your spouse, giving them a gift outside the context of special dates like Valentine's and Christmas and birthdays, just buying a set of flowers or maybe giving your woman, if you're talking about the guy, giving a woman maybe a voucher to have her nails done or her hair done or a time at the spa, or just if you have small kids, taking the kids babysitting so she can have a day on her own to just go and shop. We ladies, we love to shop. um, Giving her some money to just go and have a great time with her girlfriends. That's just being thoughtful. And the reverse is also true for women, doing things for their guy, sending him to the barber, maybe arranging him to go to a new stylist to get a new set of clothes, buying him something that he doesn't expect. Maybe he wants that new phone, something that you've seen him eyeing for a while, and you can arrange to get it for him by surprise. It can be big things or it can be little things, but being thoughtful, it is a critical aspect of demonstrating intimacy. And then there's playing together. So you may exercise with your spouse, you might play board games, you might just play around with each other, tickling, laughing, having fun, making fun with each other. In the home, you're playful, you have a playful relationship. Your husband might be washing the dishes and you pass by and you give him a pinch on his butt, and vice versa. This is all a part of establishing and molding and demonstrating the intimacy and the way you feel about your spouse. Then there's the biggie, sexual intercourse. Of course, everyone thinks of sex when they think of intimacy. And very often, sometimes some of us are so pigeonholed when it comes to sex. And when it comes to intimacy, that is all we think about. We only think about sex, but there is so much more to it. And we're going to be getting a little bit into that. But sexual intercourse is obviously one of the biggies when it comes to intimacy, and is not one that we can downplay or that we even want to downplay, especially within the context of marriage, because we know that sex glues that relationship together, and it is what makes it dynamic and sets it apart from other relationships. And that is why infidelity is such a danger. It is such a dismantler of a relationship, because it cuts at the core of what should be an exclusive sexual relationship. So, yes, sexual intimacy or sexual intercourse, shared laughter. And that goes very well together with the whole aspect of playing together. If you're intimate with your spouse, you're going to be able to have fun together. You're going to be able to crack a joke. They're going to be intimate jokes that only the two of you know. You might look at him, he might look at you, and both of you know what each other is thinking. You're into each other's brains, as it were. You understand how the partner thinks. He understands how you think, and you understand how he thinks. Not in every respect, but in many ways, you share common views on life. You share common values. You share common jokes, and it is able to bring a level of lightness and laughter to your relationship. So yes, laughing together is definitely great medicine for your relationship, for your intimate relationship. And I think this is the last one: easy eye contact. If you are intimate with your spouse, yes, you're going to be able to to view each other's look into each other's eyes, with ease. You don't feel shame, you don't feel embarrassment, because this person knows you, and you know them, and therefore there's no need to hide. So being able to look at each other honestly, I find if there's a relationship where you're not able to establish good eye contact, you have to look away, or you have to avert your gaze. You look down in shame, or you look away in embarrassment, then that becomes indicative of some level of mistrust. It becomes indicative of some level of suspicion, and obviously those are attributes of a lack of intimacy. But if you are intimate with your spouse, if you are intimate with your partner, then eye contact will be a breeze. All right, so let's break down this word intimate. Um, this is what I've done. In dash to dash mate, into mate, or into mating. What does this suggest? We think of mating and we think of sex again, but into mating. When you are intimate with someone, you are into them. Remember that movie? He's not that into you. Well, this is the opposite of that. When you are intimate, you are into that person. You are into mating with that person. You are into establishing a mating partnership. And I don't only see mating in this context as sexual, but as also emotional, as also spiritual. So you mate sexually with your spouse. You mate emotionally with your spouse. You mate spiritually with your spouse. You are connected to them. And this is the movement, therefore, towards mating, or movement towards a position of closeness or a position of oneness. This is what intimacy is, as I have broken it down here. Okay, so there are two critical questions that we need to ask ourselves. Two critical questions. Just give me a minute to move my panel. There you go. Two critical questions that we need to ask ourselves as we explore the issue of intimacy. How intimate can we really be as couples? How intimate can we really be as couples? That's one of the first questions you're going to ask. How intimate can we be as couples? And I'm going to turn that question around a little bit. How can we be intimate? You get it? How intimate can we be as couples? And then, how can we be intimate? Same words, different focus. How intimate can we be? What's our capacity for intimacy? How much intimacy can we hold? How much intimacy can we navigate? How much intimacy can we display? And then, how do we actually go about doing this thing called intimacy? Let's look at the first question in detail. How can we be intimate? As I said just now, can we be intimate? What is our intimacy capacity? Why or why not? What is the problem when it comes to intimacy and our relationship? Can we really be intimacy? Can we really be intimate? What is preventing us from being intimate with our partner? What is our capacity for intimacy? What is our capacity? How much intimacy can we hold as a couple? Um, can we go the full gamut? Are we 100% intimate? Are we 80%? Are we 50%? Are we 30? Are we 10? Are we 5? You know? And what are the challenges to intimacy? Why or why not? Why are we not as intimate as we should be? And in saying that and asking that question, then obviously we know why we are intimate with each other. Now, when we look at the other question, how can we be intimate? This question is asking us to recognize what strategies we can employ to encourage or increase the development of intimacy. What strategies can we employ to encourage or increase the development of intimacy? Now, these are critical questions that, as couples, if we're interested in advancing our relationship, if we're interested in developing our relationship and making our relationships better, then these are some of the critical questions that we need to ask ourselves with respect to intimacy. Very often I find that couples expect that their relationships are going to take place, they're going to happen on automatic pilot. They think that their relationship is just going to be automatically great, that they think, yeah, I'm just going to be able to handle it. I'm just going to be able to do it well. But there must be a certain level of purposive thinking when it comes to making our relationships better. And that is why we're doing this seminar today, because we want to help you to make your relationships better by being intentional and not expecting that your relationship is going to coast on automatic pilot and be better. And I think that if we're going to get our relationships to that point, we have to begin to ask ourselves some critical questions. And we can begin with these two. How intimate, sorry, can we be, and how can we be intimate? And you can perhaps record those questions, you can write them down, jot them down, and when you get time to be alone with your partner, perhaps you can begin to look at them together, in terms of moving your relationship to the next level. Do not expect that relationship will grow on automatic pilot. You must be purposive, you must be deliberate, you must be intentional in terms of helping your relationship to grow. And relationship education is a great way of doing that. And that's why we at Better Blends are in the process of rolling out a series of free webinars online for you so that you can help, you can move your relationship along to the next level. Okay. Um, we find that, or I find that, intimacy is really a core need. Intimacy is really a core need. It is the ability to form enduring relationships based on being exposed or on being naked and known and still being loved. It is thought to be one of the core competencies of adulthood. So, the ability to expose yourself, the ability to be known by another person, the ability to expose all of your flaws, all of your foibles, all of your weaknesses, and your strengths, and still to be appreciated and loved for who you are, It is a core competency of adulthood in terms of your ability to expose yourself, and it's also a core competency of adulthood in terms of your partner's ability to receive and accept you as you are. So it's a certain level of, there's a bidirectionality in intimacy. We can't be intimate by ourselves. We can know ourselves. That's if you look at personal intimacy, if you look at it within that context, you want to coin that term. But there's a certain anomaly in that because intimacy concerns reaching out to another person. We can know ourselves very well, and that's Howard Gardner, the proponent of multiple intelligences, actually calls that intrapersonal intelligence. Having a good knowledge of ourselves, knowing who we are, and being able to walk this life, walk our path, knowing who we are, understanding our personality, understanding our strengths. That's intrapersonal intelligence. Whereas interpersonal intelligence has to do with how well we get along with others. That's just a diversion there that is related nonetheless. But when it comes to the whole concept of intimacy, being exposed and being naked, um, exposing who we are, showing that out, and then being able to receive as we are, that is a vital component of intimacy in a marriage because there are two people involved, and I should be able to expose myself to my husband, all of my flaws, all of my strengths, all of my weaknesses, everything about me, and he should be able to accept me as I am. So I'm exposing, he's accepting. He's exposing, I'm accepting. And that directionality, that backward and forward there going on between the two of us is what intimacy is really all about. It's like a wheel in motion. We move together, we build each other up, we edify, we strengthen. You know, when I need to speak to him about something he's doing that's wrong, he should be able to accept and receive and grow. And when he speaks to me about something I'm doing that is wrong, I should be able to receive and accept and grow. And that's that we are wheels in motion, moving and growing. That's what intimacy should look like in an ideal scenario. You know, that's not how it always plays out because we bring our own issues to the table, and I'm going to get to that very shortly. Intimacy says we are known and still loved and still appreciated and accepted for who we are despite our imperfections. Intimacy affirms us by increasing our sense of personal value. So when I'm intimate with my partner and he's intimate with me and we've established the wheels of intimacy in motion, this our sense of personal value is increased. I feel valued, I feel validated, I feel affirmed as an individual. He feels valued, he feels validated, he feels affirmed as an individual. That boosts our sense of individual self-esteem. And when our self-esteem is boosted, we bring that level of confidence, we bring that level of self-worth back to the relationship, and our couple self-esteem is then boosted. And we know that we do life well together. We know that we're connected, we know that we belong to each other, we know that we're loyal to each other. And that is what strengthens our marriage as the wheels of intimacy is set in motion. Of course, I'm looking at this within a framework of an ideal scenario because we know that there are many other issues that come in to sort of provide roadblocks to development of intimacy. And I'll be getting to that shortly. So let me see how much time we have left. We still have a little time left, I think, that I can finish. So let's go about how intimate. How can we assess our intimacy capacity? I'm suggesting that there's some questions that we can ask. Or rather, these are statements, and we can decide whether this is true or false about us. So I'm going to put these statements on the screen. That's the first one there. I feel comfortable sharing my deepest dreams and fears with my spouse. I feel comfortable sharing my deepest dreams and fears with my spouse. If I can comfortably say yes to this, then I know that I'm on the pathway to intimacy or that I'm there already, depending on what percentage and whether this is true of me 100%. If this is true of me 60, 50, 40, 30, never, then I have an idea of where I am and where I need to go. Another statement, I have a strong sense of identity. I know what I believe in and I know what I stand for. Now, you might think, why is that an aspect of intimacy? Um, because if we're looking at addressing our capacity as a couple, how much intimacy can we hold? How intimate can we be? I think that it is contingent on understanding who we are as individuals first. If I am weak, if I am needy, if I am demanding, overtly demanding, if I am a nag, if I don't know who I am, if I hate who I am, if I'm suffering from low self esteem and I have no sense of my direction in life, I don't know what my goals are, I don't know what I want to achieve, I am not a person on my own. I seem to be somewhat emotionally debilitated. I'm struggling and dealing with issues, and really, I am not in a healthy position. And if I'm not in a healthy position, then I'm not able to be totally intimate with someone. I have too much issues going on. So this critical statement here relates to that. Do we have a strong sense of our own identity? Do we know who we are and what we stand for and what we believe in? And if we don't, then we're really not in a position to be totally intimate. We're always going to be juggling, pulling stuff back, hiding who we really are, not sure of what we think, not sure that we can expose who we are, not sure that we can express our opinion, etc. And those are all indicators of an unhealthy or of a lack of emotional health. Let me put it that way. They indicate a lack of emotional health and a need for some level of help to move us to the stage where we can then really expose who we are and put ourselves in a position to be intimate with someone else. So that one is a critical statement. Knowing who we are, knowing what we stand for, knowing what we believe in. I'm aware of my strengths and my weaknesses. That is related to the one gone before. I'm going to go forward. I don't feel compelled to share personal news, good or bad, with my spouse. Now, this is an iffy one. I'm saying here that we should be able to share because we've made a decision that this is good, this is right. This is something that can help my partner. This is something that he needs to know about me because it will advance our relationship. It will help us to be closer. It will help him to understand me a bit better. And I can share with him because I've made a decision to share out of my own level of health, out of my own level of decisiveness. I have decided to share stuff with him. But it is not a compulsion. It is not out of a sense of weakness or because I'm looking for, I'm feeling sorry for myself and I'm looking to manipulate his emotions with my story. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not intimacy. That's manipulation. All right, I'm not looking to try to manipulate him with my story, but I want to share what's happening. I want to share what's happening with me, and I can do it if I think it is the right thing to do at a particular time. And I'm not saying that we should hold secrets from our partner because I have zero tolerance for secrets. I believe if we're intimate with someone, we should be willing to expose everything to that person. I consider my partner's opinion when making major decisions. I don't just make a major decision on my own and then tell my partner in hindsight. I want to involve him. If it's a man, I want to involve my wife. I want to involve my significant other. I want to let her know that I value her opinion. I have resolved issues of childhood or adolescent trauma or pain. That is critical. If we haven't resolved our past, if we're still struggling, still dealing with issues from our past, then it's going to interrupt our ability to be intimate. It is going to hinder our ability to expose who we are because we're still struggling with understanding and knowing ourselves, and we're still trapped in our past. We might feel like a child. We might still feel like an adolescent. We may still feel as if we haven't matured because we're dealing with stuff. So we're dealing with pain. We haven't grieved perhaps parental abandonment. We haven't grieved rejection. We haven't grieved sexual or emotional abuse, verbal abuse that we may have experienced as children or as young people. And as a result of that, we take that baggage, we take that trauma to our relationship unresolved. I'm not saying that we have to be perfect when we move into a relationship or a marriage, but at least we have to be aware of our issues and be willing to negotiate them and talk about them and move through them so that we can move on. I have made peace with my previous failed adult relationship. So that's the opposite of the one that went before. If we've made peace, then we know we are in a very special place for intimacy to happen. Okay, just give me a minute to see my screen. There we go. Intimacy is both the umbrella which covers and the core which defines marriage. Intimacy is both the umbrella which covers and it is the core which defines marriage. So, intimacy is like a shroud that should cover us as a couple together, the two of us as one, exist under the umbrella of intimacy together, into mating, into each other. And it is the core principle at the root of our marriage which sets that relationship apart and makes that different from any other relationship that we might be involved in. We think of the symbol that emerges from the marriage ceremony. And if I have to ask that question now, what would be that image when we think of a marriage and we think of the words that are usually spoken of by the pastor as people are being brought together under that covenant that clearly defines the whole aspect of intimacy? I'm sure what I'm going to put up here now would have come to most of your mind. The whole issue of being one flesh, and that's a biblical reference, yes, the two becoming one. And it brings us right to the table in terms of the issue and the image of sexual oneness, sexual intimacy. It brings us to that table. And it is also a concrete image which defines both the emotional and physical elements of intimacy. Becoming one flesh, becoming one is vital. It's important to being intimate. Okay, I just had to pause there for a little minute. All right, let's go. So, when we're thinking of intimacy, we're thinking of emotional intimacy, we're thinking of spiritual intimacy, we're also thinking of sexual intimacy. And when you have some time with your partner, perhaps you can begin to think about these different levels of intimacy and you can rate their importance to you. Which one is most important to you? Do you want to be emotionally intimate? Do you want to be sexually intimate? Do you want to be spiritually intimate? Or are you only interested in one level of intimacy? Are you only interested in emotional? There's some women particularly who are not that much into sex. They want just the romance and the talking and the hugging and they just want that. They don't want anything else. The rest is too much bother, too much trouble. Some people just want to focus on the spirituality of their relationship. Sometimes one partner is thinking more of one type. Sometimes we think that men only think about sexual intimacy, but all three together are critical. They're extremely important to the development of the marriage relationship. And I'm just going to read for you a couple of the questions that we have in our emotional intimacy questionnaire, which kind of will help you to see what we're thinking of when we're thinking of the whole aspect of emotional intimacy. Um, I communicate regularly with my spouse. I vocally say I love you. I feel alone in this marriage. And that's a negative one. So if we said never or almost never to that, because it's on a scale. One is never or almost never, two is once in a while, and three is frequently. And may I say that we have devised these intimacy questionnaires at Better Blends Relationship Institute. They're copywritten to us 2010. And if you're interested in getting copies of our intimacy questionnaire, you can give us a call at our stated number and you can email us betterblends@gmail.com. Call us at 246-239-7514 and we will get copies of our questionnaire to you at a very minimal cost. Um, we regularly spend time together outside of the bedroom. I consider my spouse my best friend. I affirm or speak positive words to my spouse. I recognize when my spouse is hurt. I guard my marriage by setting boundaries with those of the opposite sex. We respect each other's opinions, etc. And there are a number of questions in this intimacy questionnaire. I won't have the time to go through them all now, but there are 18 questions. And as I said, we answer on 3 points: never or almost never, once in a while, or frequently. When we look at the whole aspect of spiritual intimacy, then there are some other questions. Um, I feel comfortable encouraging my spouse in his or her spiritual walk. I share my spiritual goals with my spouse. I internalize or hide uncertainties and doubts about my spiritual walk from my spouse. That's one of the negative skewed ones. Um, I'm afraid to confront my spouse when he or she does something wrong. I affirm or speak positive words to my spouse. That is also an aspect of spirituality. Um, I would prefer to share first with my spouse when I feel at a spiritual low. I can accurately sense when my spouse is troubled or depressed. I pray for and with my spouse. I place my partner's need before my own. And those are just a few, again, of the 18 included in the questionnaire on spiritual intimacy. And then we have the questionnaire on sexual intimacy. There are 23 questions in this questionnaire. I'll just read a few of this. It's not questions, they're statements, really. I will read a few of them for you. That will help you to see what we're thinking about when we think about sexual intimacy. I know where my partner likes to be touched. I feel ashamed of my desire for sex. I prefer to have sex in the dark. I have little desire to be physically intimate with my spouse. I prefer to have sex with my eyes closed. Did I say that already? I think I did. I believe that sex is mainly for procreation. Our sex is usually planned and predictable. I enjoy my sex's body. Our sex is mind blowing. I hide my body from my partner. We usually use sex to celebrate special events, birthdays, Valentine's, Christmas, etc. I secretly use pornography to pleasure myself. That's one of the negatively skewed ones. I fantasize about someone else when having sex with my spouse. We read and research about various sexual positions, trends, etc. We seldom have sex. As you would recognize from the way these questionnaires are done, some of the statements are positively skewed towards intimacy and some are negatively skewed away from intimacy. And that's how you normally design a questionnaire. And it would help us to understand what are the points that we have, what are the strong points that we have as couples that are moving us towards intimacy, and what are the points we have that are taking us away from being more intimate with our partner. So, if you want to have copies of these questionnaires, as I said, you can contact us at betterblends at gmail.com. Put in the subject heading intimacy questionnaires, put in the subject heading intimacy questionnaires, and we can get copies of our copywritten questionnaires to you to use in your couples group, in your couples ministry at your church. You can use them individually, just with your spouse if you want to, at a very, very minimal cost. So you can contact us if you're interested in really seeing the full questionnaires and doing them. So we basically we need to assess ourselves um, to determine how intimate we are with our partner, and that's the only way we're going to know where we need to go. We may or may not use a formal questionnaire like what I've just been going through with you. We may simply have a conversation, have some time where we can speak to our partner and decide where we're going and what we need to do to make our relationship more intimate. So spending time talking together, just maybe an evening out, maybe lying in a Saturday, lying in a Sunday, having some time to really connect and assess the level of the relationship. That indicates that you're being purposive, you're being deliberate, you're being intentional. You're not just allowing your relationship to happen, but you want it to be real. You want it to move. You want it to be a living thing. You want it to grow. Like a tree or a plant, you have to water it. Well, that's how we have to do our relationships. We have to be deliberate and purposive. And that's what we're about at Better Blends Relationship Institute. Now, quickly, there are some roadblocks to intimacy. There are some things that can interrupt the flow of intimacy in a marriage. And we have more or less established what intimacy is. And we've looked at some of the images and the words and the ideas that come to mind when we think of intimacy. We've looked at some of the statements that can be linked to both emotional, sexual, and spiritual intimacy. And now we're going to look briefly at some of the issues that can interrupt the flow of intimacy. One of the obvious one is different life scripts. We come from different backgrounds. We've been raised differently. We've had different experiences. And as a consequence, we can see life differently. And sometimes because we see life in a different way to our partner, and we're unwilling to open up ourselves to another way of thinking, or it doesn't mean we have to shift our thinking, but we're unwilling to embrace the fact that someone might be different, then that can be a serious roadblock to intimacy in the marriage, or intimacy in the relationship. Also, our ongoing experiences, what we're going through. Sometimes we're going through things that might be difficult. Maybe we're having a hard time at work, or maybe our parents are aging and ill. And as a result, we're taking on a lot. Maybe we're struggling under financial challenges. And as a result, we withdraw into ourselves, and we don't want to talk. We don't want to expose. We don't want to connect, because we want to go through our stuff on our own. Maybe we think that is what makes us strong, or we just are so angry with life and angry with ourselves, and maybe even angry with our partner, depending on what it is we're going through. And as a result, we withdraw. And that can be a significant roadblock to intimacy. How we were socialized, our different life scripts, our ongoing issues, our current experiences, these can all hinder the development of intimacy in our lives as couples. So there are internal and external factors, as I mentioned just now: personal baggage, attachment issues, trauma. Perhaps we had a problem attaching or detaching from our parents, and this can be a hindrance to intimacy with your spouse. Maybe we experienced some level of trauma in the past, and I think I would have mentioned this before. And this can also hinder the development of intimacy. A resolution of couple conflict. If there's been a challenge with us in previous years, even prior to marriage, or in the earlier years of our marriage, or in the middle years of our marriage, or as recent as last week, last month, he did something to you that you can't forgive, or that you're angry about, but you haven't spoken about it, then if there has been no resolution to couple conflicts, it will impact on the level of intimacy you're able to groom within that relationship. So it's critical that we talk immediately about issues as they are become exposed, so that we can move on. If we don't deal with the stuff, if we don't open it up, then we remain trapped in that issue, and that becomes a serious roadblock to intimacy. Um, Habituation. This is a psychological terminology, and it speaks about the fact that when we spend time with someone over an extended period of time, habituation occurs. And if you look at the word, you're going to see the word habit in there. The person becomes common to us. It's like a habit, it's normal. We know that person well, we're accustomed seeing them, we know their ins and outs, we know how they look without the makeup, we know when they're at their worst, when they wake up on mornings, we know how they are when they're angry. We know them at their worst, we know them at their best. And habituation suggests that because we are so familiar, as it were, there's a sort of waning of the attraction between the two individuals. And habituation is something that we can't get away from. It is a psychologically proven thing that does happen in any type of relationship where people are together over an extended period of time. You get accustomed. And it is because of habituation that we need to deliberately go about making ways to reinvent ourselves, reinvent our marriage, reinvent the tenure and the tone of our relationship, so that even though habituation will occur, it doesn't bring a demise to our relationship. So we're not saying it won't occur, it will happen. There will be that waning of attraction. You won't feel the same way you felt when you first met your spouse. That's a fact of life. It will happen. Expect it to happen. But then that's not the only reason you're with your spouse. You're not just with them because of the level of attraction you felt when you first met, because of the butterflies, etc., because they don't last. You are with your partner because of love and because of the covenant, because of commitment. And that is why I believe marriage is an important factor in an intimate relationship. It says to the world, I'm willing to go to any lengths to establish that this woman, this man is mine, and I'm committed to him or her for life. Okay? And yeah, I think that even though habituation will happen and it can be a serious roadblock, it doesn't have to spell the end of the world. Now, lack of boundaries and inappropriate attachments with others can also hinder the establishing and the development and the growth of intimacy between the two of those couples. And I just spoke about this, I think, last week when I was on the radio program. on CETA Radio, Ignite Change. I was talking about the fact that couples must learn to establish appropriate boundaries in their other relationships. Yes, we can have other friends. Yes, we can have friends of the opposite sex, but that friend, especially if it's a very close friend from your past, maybe a best friend from school days, college days, someone from a previous neighborhood when you were growing up, someone you met at work, whoever that person is that is of the opposite sex that you tend to like because you just like them as a person. I'm not saying there's anything wrong in liking someone, as a platonic friend. You like them, that you connect well, but that person must become a friend of the couple. That person must not be held as a best friend of yours alone. If you're a man, if she's a woman, or if you're a woman, you can't have a best friend or a good friend who's a man, and you don't bring him into your space. You shouldn't actually have a best friend other than your spouse, unless you're talking about a female best friend, or if you're a man, you're talking about a male best friend. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in partners having best friends of the opposite sex. That is absolute rubbish and will spell danger to your relationship. All right. So you must establish boundaries. You must let friends know, well, this is my partner. This is the person I'm married to. I love, I honor, I cherish, I am loyal. And once you send the right signals, then there will be no issues. When you open up your marriage by speaking indiscriminately about your private stuff, you criticize your partner to other people. You might be a male and you have a female friend at work and you criticize your wife to that woman. You make your wife look bad. You're always talking about her negatively. Then you're opening, you're disloyal to your wife, number one, and you're opening your marriage to a woman who will begin to empathize with you. Even if she's your good friend, she'll begin to empathize and feel sorry for your state. And that is an emotional opening, which makes your relationship vulnerable to move from just that of a platonic friendship into emotional infidelity, which can then lead to sexual infidelity. So you want to really guard your relationship from inappropriate boundaries and attachments, as they can seriously impact the level of intimacy that is able to develop. These are some other roadblocks I'm just going to go through quickly. A lack of sensitivity by both partners to each other's needs, whether sexual, emotional, or other. That can impact on the ability to develop intimacy. And unwillingness to dialogue up front, even though you might both be demonstrating laws of nonverbal communication. Maybe you come home and you're angry and you drop down your bag and you go into the room, you slam the door, you're silent. That's nonverbal communication. You're not speaking, but you're saying that something is wrong. And I'm saying that if you constantly do that, I'm not saying there isn't any scope to be human, and there are times when you won't want to talk, but I'm saying as a practice, if you constantly do that every day or every week, you come home and you don't speak, especially when you've had a bad day, and if you constantly have bad days but you never talk about it, then you are really creating a blockage between you and your partner, even though your partner is not at fault. If it might be something that happened at work, but you're creating a barrier between you and your partner by responding only in nonverbal ways and not moving that to the level of the verbal, where you can really expose what's happening. And then you become energized by these mental perceptions, which might remain undiscussed. Perhaps you're thinking a particular way about your partner. Or he's always inattentive. He's never romantic. He never does anything for me for my birthday. She never wants to have sex. She's always nagging me. She's always begging me for money. She's always gossiping with her friends. And you have these things going around in your head about your partner, but you're not talking to your partner about the issues that concern you. And as a result of that, you store up bitterness in your heart, and you begin to feel as if you're coming apart at the seams as a couple. I know I have very little time left, and then this leads to disappointment about unmet needs, about unmet expectations, and then really the relationship begins to unravel, where it really should be one that is being built up and being strong. When we refuse to talk about our issues, when we fail to communicate, when we have conflicting expectations that are there because, again, we don't talk, then this leads to further secrecy, it leads to private pain, and we become vulnerable to temptation, because as human beings, we have that core need for intimacy, as I said at the beginning. We have that core need to share and expose who we are. And if we're not doing it with our partner, we're going to become vulnerable and we're going to find that we are drifting towards doing it with someone else. So, how can we build intimacy? We can reflect. We can educate ourselves, read books, go to seminars, webinars like this, get in touch with people who can help you move to the next level. Communicate through talking and writing. Involve a third party, whether it be a counselor, a pastor, a trusted friend, or a mentor. Actively attempt to build your relationship by doing it differently. Don't do the same thing and expect different results. Go out with your partner, date your spouse, step things up in the bedroom, pray with your partner. Those of you who are faith based and you believe in including God in your relationship, do that and do it to the hilt. Spend time together, go out together, travel, do whatever you need to do to rewrite the context of your relationship so that you can move from a relationship of aloneness to one of great intimacy and empowerment. And that is how we can be intimate as partners. I'm just going to wrap it up by saying intimacy involves a willingness to get naked, to be open and vulnerable, or to unmask. In the marriage relationship, this means a willingness to be honest about sharing expectations, motivations, likes, dislikes, and preferences, and also to share one's past where necessary. It is cultivated through communication, regular sexual connection, and a commitment to improving the marriage experience. So I think that we've capped it when it comes to getting naked. There's so much more that we could say, but we're going to cap it for now. And I want to thank you for joining me for this first webinar in the series by Better Blends Relationship Institute and Red Red Apples. Remember, you can log on to my blog, redredapples.wordpress.com. There are hundreds of articles there. You can go into the archive and just read. And if you have any comments or questions, just leave your comment in the box below each article. I will see the question and I will respond. I respond to questions from people from all over the world who send questions, who make comments with respect to a particular article. So get on my blog, read the articles, ask questions, contact me if you're interested in counseling, coaching, workshops, or seminars at 246-239-7514. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar today. I'm going to make sure that the recording is available to you. I will let you know when it's up and running. I didn't start from the beginning, but I will. I did capture most of it. I probably missed the first 15 minutes. I forgot actually to press the record button, but it will be available for those who are unable to log in, or if you want to listen to it again, it will be available and I will post that link. So thanks so much for joining me at this first webinar, Get Naked, Exploring Marital Intimacy. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.